Hello, so we're gonna wait just a couple more minutes. My name is Vince Lowry. I'm the Director of Student Success and Engagement. I am also the Director of the GPS program. I'm gonna moderate this session. We're just gonna wait a couple minutes, let some folks get settled as they come back from lunch. And so just sit tight and we'll get going in just a couple minutes. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the first in a series of panels this afternoon, student panels featuring student ambassadors or peer mentors, a variety of other students further along in their UWGB journeys who are coming together to share their perspectives. The focus of the first event is on being your own advocate. One of the challenges for students as they make their transition from high school to college is figuring out where to go when they need a hand, how to access that support, and then what to do. And so as we thought about ways that we could support you in the transition from high school to college, the kinds of programming that we might need at GB Welcome, we very quickly hit upon this as an important discussion to have. And so we have Asia, Paige, and Faith here to share their perspectives with you. And so I'm going to get out of the way and let them share their perspectives on being your own advocate. And if you have any questions as we go along, you can post those questions in the live event Q&A. And so with that, as promised, I'm going to get out of the way and turn things over to Asia. You're almost on. Just a second.
Unmuted. There we go.
There you are.
Being your own advocate. It's actually something I'm still working on. Because for me personally, growing up, I relied on my mom for everything. And my mom is like the biggest support system in my life. And I've watched her struggle, like growing up. And it's a mental roadblock for me. I tend to rely on myself for a lot of things, so it takes a lot for me to trust people and rely on people for myself. So I usually go to my mom for anything I need, and then I've got some really nice friends in my life that I tend to go to for things too. And it's taken a bit for me, and it's something that you have to work on as you grow older and learn to be on your own and find those support systems in your life that you can rely on and to go to for anything that you need.
All right, now we're gonna kick things over to Paige, who will be live in just a moment. There you are, Paige.
Okay, hello, I'm Paige. I am now a senior, and so it's very crazy to think about how I made it this far, just because I remember struggling along the way when I first got to school. So it's very weird thinking about how far along I've come and how much I've surprised myself. Coming in, I'm first generation, so I kind of had to figure this out on my own. Like Asia said, my mom is like my rock. She's done everything herself, and so she worked really hard to make sure that I was always striving for more because she didn't have the opportunities to do that. But her unconditional support also meant that she didn't always have the answers. She supported me to find those answers and to hopefully find somebody who did have the answers. But she also wasn't scared to say, you're not going to get them from me because I don't have them. So with her being my main support system, it was hard to kind of realize that she can't help me through this in the ways that I need that help. So I had to turn to people like my professors, and like other departments on campus certainly did help with things like financial aid. But the support that I actually needed, there wasn't a department for it. It was in my relationships with people and faculty that I ended up building. So that's kind of how I had to find those things for myself.
Okay. We're going to give the floor to Faith, and then we'll come back through and ask some questions. And again, please feel free to post questions in the live event Q&A.
All right. So kind of like my friends here, but my name is Faith first of all, but I, growing up, my dad and I were actually super close once I got a little bit older, just because he worked away from home a lot. Growing up, doing what I do now, I'm a theater major. That is the complete opposite of anything anybody in my family has ever done. They all work in the trades or in the medical field. They were all athletes in high school, so nobody kind of really knew what to do with me. They were all very, very supportive of me following my dreams. They were my biggest cheerleaders. And whenever I felt down or just out of it, they were always the people who, despite, you know, their lack of knowledge, were there to say, you know, it's okay, keep pushing it, you've got this. But in order to really understand and learn about who I am and my craft, I relied heavily on my teachers and my professors. They're the ones who really taught me how to strive for more, because the people that were in my life before I got to college just didn't know where to start. It's not that they didn't care, because they very much cared, but they didn't know where to go. So without those people in my life, without the professors, the teachers, the professionals, I wouldn't be able to do what I do today, because I wouldn't have the knowledge or the strength to do it. Nobody would have showed me how. I'm also a first generation college student, so just applying for school was hard because nobody knew how to do that either. So definitely the people in the school system were the people that helped me.
Great. Now I'm gonna try to toggle back and forth here. We'll see how this turns out. We don't have any questions yet, so I'm gonna ask my questions. So all three of you have kind of talked about people that you had in your corner at home, and then people you had to kind of connect with here. And so I'm curious to hear a little bit about the relationships that you've forged with your professors. And if you could think back to your first year at UWGB, how did that happen, right? What was that, you know, how did that relationship take place? You know, for so many of the students coming in, they had the luxury of knowing teachers over the years, maybe having some prior connections to them. Now it's starting all over with new folks. So I'm curious if one or all of you want to weigh in on how you made that relationship, how you made that connection with your professors in your first year. And maybe there's a particular professor that comes to mind when I talk about those connections in year one. They're like, oh yeah, I know exactly who who comes to mind, the person who helped me in year one. And then I'll just say, if you want to just raise your hand, I'll send you live into the production screen. So Paige was first. Wow. So we're gonna let Paige jump in, and then we'll let Faith and Asia jump in too. So all right, Paige, you have the floor.
All right. So my initial response to this, because I do get asked this a lot, is I don't know. Like, it's weird because it's such an intentional thing you have to commit yourself to doing. You don't accidentally meet someone and have it just work out for the best all that often, especially with school. You know, I had to introduce myself to professors when I had every other option not to. But at the same time, it feels so natural now that it's hard to imagine that there was a time where that wasn't who I was or something I was so willing to do. Jason Cowell is probably one of my favorite people on this planet to exist. He is a professor in our psychology faculty. I believe he's also vice chair of the program right now. And he teaches neuroscience. That wasn't my first year I took that class, but he is truly one of the first people that I had such a surprising and worthwhile connection with. I met other people who helped my confidence so I could eventually talk to somebody like Jason. He is smart at what he does. He is very good at what he does. He's a great teacher. He teaches material in an approachable way, and so that only made me believe that if I went to him with academic questions, that he would be just as approachable, and he was. Through him, I've been able to get a bunch of different internship opportunities. I now work in the neuroscience research lab. I didn't know that existed when I came to college. I didn't know we had something like that. I didn't think I would even be a candidate for it. I didn't even think that they would even look at something if I applied for it, just because I was so under the radar that they wouldn't know who I was. I had no background. So anybody on the whole campus, even if they weren't a psych major, would probably be a better candidate than I was. But talking to him and talking to him that in a way that he instilled confidence in me. He saw potential that I didn't see in myself yet. He showed me all these other windows of opportunity that I could actually make for myself, that I could open those doors for myself. They were there. I just had to be the one to kind of go through them. You know, and now a few years later, I'm a TA for him. I'm still in the neuroscience lab. I'm doing an honors project. He's helping me with grad school stuff. He has been a mentor in so many different ways, and sometimes before I was able to advocate for myself, he was able to do it with me, not for me, but with me. Also on myself. So he's wonderful.
We appear to have had a little bit of a technical hiccup there. Not quite sure what happened. Everything on my end just went blank. That's all I know. It's a great story, though. I mean, I think, you know, I talk to students all the time. You want a champion. Who's your champion, right? And you want to make those relationships because you never know who your champion will be. Yeah, and so Jason Cowell is a great example of Paige's champion and how those relationships, you never know what doors those faculty are going to help you open. So I'm gonna let Faith go live now. So we're gonna scoot Paige out of the way. We're gonna turn the floor over to Faith for her to answer this question.
So the first thing, I don't know, I feel like everybody, when you're a senior in high school, is telling you that college is gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard, you know, your classes are gonna be harder. Finding your way around is going to be harder. It's going to be harder for you to make friends. You have to put in the work because if you don't, you're going to fall behind immediately. And it was just, maybe that was just my high school experience, but it was just, I felt like at one point every single day, people were telling me, expect it to be hard. So that's what I did. I expected it to be hard. I expected to come in here and I don't know, feel like a doctoral candidate. Like that level of academics was about to happen. So with that in mind, having nobody to tell me what college is actually like, I went in there and I basically just did everything I could. I listened to everything my professor said. I wrote it down. I took every direction they gave me. I would show up to every like extra hour activity so that I could learn more and take in more, and just tried to put in as much work as I could. And I'm so grateful that somebody noticed, because I find that my professors in the theater department are so willing to lend you a hand and be there and help like carry you across the threshold to graduation. They're more than willing to help me out, but they're, you know, not unless you're willing to prove that you want to be there and you want to be a part of your education. Do I feel like people actually want to help you, you know? So I think I got really lucky, because I was expecting to, I came in with this idea that like I have to be the most studious person that ever exists, and I am not. There are more people that are more studious than me, but I think my hard work, somebody noticed my hard work. I think that when people say, you know, the hard work will pay off, it didn't really like register in my brain until I saw it. It's because to some extent seeing is believing. So if you put in the hard work, I'm a huge advocate word choice. I'm a huge advocate for your hard work will pay off. You have to put in the work to see the results. In particular, there's a music professor who teaches with the theater department. Her name is Courtney Sherman. I actually attended summer camp with UW Green Bay in the outreach programs. And I met Courtney there. And Courtney once told me that she swears that I was the most talkative kid there, but I remember being so awkward and shy. And I used to put in these little colored hair extensions that were the most atrocious thing when I look back at it now. But I was sitting there like by myself, and Courtney goes, pink is one of my favorite colors. I love that color. And she points at my hair. And it just kind of opened me up to this idea that like, wow, people like notice me and see me and want to hear my voice. And then I mean, like, I knew nothing going into camp. I know nothing now, even though I feel like I've been studying music forever. But if I asked a question, she answered, and she actually listened to what I had to say. And I know that that's, you know, it shouldn't be a hard thing for people to do, but it was so rewarding and eye-opening for me to see that somebody actually like listens and wants to hear what I have to say. And she has fostered me since then. When I got to school here, I wasn't gonna go to school here, but it felt like home, so I ended up choosing it. She became my voice coach for the next 4 years of school, and she's really become my mentor and told me like it is and was honest with me, but she really fostered my growth, and I can't thank her enough for that.
Faith, you're not the only person that hears that in high school. Everybody in high school hears it's the worst imaginable kind of vision of college. Like, it's a weird kind of mashup of horror film meets every stereotypical college film all in one, balled up into one. And if you come in with that like expectation, it becomes really hard to shake it. And I think that it's important for students to hear that, no, there are people like Courtney who are going to notice you, who are going to advocate for you, people like Jason who are going to open doors for you. That's a really important message, because your professors are people too, and they're going to see you as people and see you as people with voices, both metaphorical and literal in your cases you're describing there. So yeah. Aisha, I'm gonna kick it over to you, because I want to hear what your take is on this. That those relationships that you built with faculty in particular, maybe in that first year.
The beginning for me, it's kind of a complicated one because when I first came to UW Green Bay, I wasn't solely at UW Green Bay. When I started off, I was a nursing major actually, and I've switched to musical theater after my first year. But when I first started out, I had a really big sense of that I didn't belong. And it came from not being in one place for too long. I was between two different places, two different faculties, two different sets of students. And my mom, my older brother, and my older sister are all in the nursing program. So I just had the thought of like, hey, maybe I should just go and do this. And I was failing miserably. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It was a very rough time for me. And I get it a lot now that I'm like really bubbly, I'm really personable, and I'm just so happy all the time. But when I first came in, I really wasn't all those things. I was very nervous. I was 4 hours away from home. I didn't have my family with me. And I just didn't have like those pillars. I wasn't as grounded as I wanted to be. And the only time I ever cried in a professor's office was when I was at Bellin College. And it was because I was failing a class and I didn't know why. And I was just like an emotional wreck. And her name was Erin. And I really need to get back in contact with her because she said something that stuck with me up until this point. She gave me a hug and I was like ugly crying and it was a mess. And she gave me a hug and she told me, Asia, you have heart. She's like, you have a really big heart. But I can see that when you're in class and when you're in here, you're trying really hard, but your heart isn't into it. And if your heart isn't into it, you're not going to succeed like you want to. And I had to digest it for a bit. Like, yeah, this isn't something that I really want to pursue. And that, like, over spring break that year, I actually went to New York on a theater trip with UW Green Bay. And it's like, I did theater in high school, but I didn't think that I could actually pursue something like that because I didn't think I was good enough to actually do something like that. But after I took that trip, it's like I made up in my mind, like, yeah, this is where my heart is. And I had to actually leave her back at Bellin College, but she told me if I ever needed anything to keep in contact. And I haven't kept in contact, and I'm so upset about it. But I'm gonna get back in contact with her because she's the first pillar that held me down in one place, and she told me that I should go where my heart is, and my heart is here in theater. And she truthfully changed my life. She's one of the people who changed me and helped shape me into who I am, and I was able to shine where I am now. I'm appreciative to her.
Mentorship comes in lots of forms. Sometimes that mentorship comes in the form of steering us away from one path and toward another, or giving us the space to figure out our path, right? So many of our students, they come in and maybe you feel like, this is what I want to major in, I know it, I'm sure of it, and then you get into it, you're like, oh, no, this is not, I want no part of this. But you don't know, right? You can never know until you get into it. And that's why part of that self-advocacy is just self-exploration. So I really appreciate that. That story works on so many different levels. So we just have a few minutes left. We haven't got any questions, but I'm going to ask, we'll go in reverse order since, Asia, we've already got you on the platform. It took me about 10 seconds into your story before I realized I hadn't kicked you over to the live. We'll go in reverse order. What's one piece of advice that each of you have, that one thing that you feel like, first year students in those first few weeks of the semester really need to do to learn to become their own advocate, to become more independent as they're expected to be? So in some ways, Asia, I kind of stuck you with this because you don't have the luxury Faith and Paige do of being able to process their answer while they're off screen. So, but I feel like the stories you're telling, you're giving us a lot to work with here. So what's one thing?
Something I saw in a movie. It's friendships are like a tree. You'll have people who come in your life who are like leaves, but they don't stay because they just fly off the tree. So they're going to be in your life, but don't give them lifetime expectations because they're just going to fly away. And then you have people who are like branches, and you can rely on them, but don't put too much faith in them because they break once you step out on them and you try to put your like emotions into them. But if you find a few people in your life who are like the roots at the bottom of the tree, you'll be able to rely on them for a lifetime.
Wow. Now I'm looking at Paige and Faith. They're like, no, we don't. We're going to pass. We don't want to go. No, that was great. I love that. I love that. All right. Faith, I'm working across my screen, so you follow that.
I can't follow that. Are you serious? That was perfect. That was fantastic. That kind of, I almost teared up a little bit, actually. That kind of made me want to cry. Okay, geez. Be brave. I know that it's scary and it's hard to, but you're not going to get anything you want out of life, whether that's, you know, in your career, with your own relationship with yourself, with your friends, as Asia so beautifully pointed out. You are not going to get anything you want out of life unless you're brave and you speak up, or you make that action and take control of your situation. I think I don't know if anybody was there for the Rockstar Project yesterday with Jason Levasseur, but when he said, you are the driver of your life, you really are. Nobody else, especially now that you're in college and you're independent, nobody else is going to do it for you. You have to be brave, open yourself up, and take that leap, because nothing is going to happen if you just stand there. It's way easier. At least you know the outcome if you get the word no. Like, you don't want to live the rest of your life not knowing. So it's easier to be brave.
All right. Now, Paige, sorry, you've got both of those that you have to follow. You get to take us home, though. So I'm gonna kick you over to the platform. Take us home here. One final piece of advice for students watching live, plus those that are going to check us out on the recording.
This is hard because I have so many things to advise to people, because there's so many things I didn't know that I know now. But nothing that I say couldn't be explained when I say that it's very easy, but also scary to think about, well, this is what I have to do so that in 20 years from now, I'm this way. There's, you know, if I want to be retiring at this age, or if I want to have these things when I'm old, this is what I need to do. You can think about the future, but just get through today, because you can't be you in 10 years if you don't just work through today. Be proud of the things you just do today. It doesn't have to be everything that you do want to accomplish in your life today. Just start a conversation today. Maybe send an email out, you know, ask a question after class. You don't have to say, hey, I want to work in the neuroscience research lab, and this is what I want to do for my grad school plans, and this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. Help me. Just start the conversation. Just go to class. Just make that presence. Just get through the day, because you do that enough times and you're 10 years down the road, you're 4 years down the road, and you just do a little bit of something every day to be better than who you were yesterday, and you will be A-okay in 10 years. You will be A-okay in 20. You're gonna be all right. Just get through today and you're gonna be all right.
My motto there kind of echoed the idea, be 1% better today than you were yesterday. All right, so I'm going to kick myself now to the platform, and here I am. And I just want to thank Paige, Faith, and Asia for taking the time today. Thank you to those of you watching live, and to those of you who are going to check out the recording. Enjoy the rest of GB Welcome, and understand if any issues do arise, you can reach out to me as Director of Student Success and Engagement. I am really easy to find via email. So do not hesitate to ask for help if you need it.